Hello everyone. I would like to briefly introduce myself. My name is Anadila. I'm from MA Al Ikhlas Berbah. I would like to explain a very important discussion that is mother language preservation. Why preservation? Because preservation is the very way we can pursue to avoid extinction. There are people who cried the cheapest to be given chance to exercise their mother language. There are people who shoot the loudest to survive their mother tongue. And there are people who longing the most to live with their generation using their mother tongue. Even us, we want to live to be connected and to exercise our language in our lives using our mother tongue. Why? Because mother language is not just an alphabetical letter conveying many from the community, but it is the identity of the society. This identity represents traditions, cultures, values that we exercised in our daily life that finally becomes our identity. This identity is not just our 1 day, 1 week, or maybe 1 year identity. It must be made is eternity. Letting our identity fact is letting ourselves get. Have you ever imagined we live with our society, but we can exercise the values that we have? We live in our society, but we feel lonely and can be connected to our story or symphony. We can ever recognize who we actually are, because we never know how we are and how the previous generations were. If this happens, it is going to be a lonely person in a crowd community. The one thing we can do to never bring this into reality is by protecting our identity, by preserving our mother language. It is very possible to pass down and even survive it from generation to generation. Why should we? Because we are the generation who live in this edition. We have to be the generation who continue the journey of the previous generation. With challenging work that we have nowadays, it must be the storm that we have to calm, not the problem we blame. Once we let ourselves to be a little part away from our mother language, its extinction will not be just an imagination. The case of how 718 mother language in Indonesia that are identified and validated that will happening in the future, or the history of how Bengali people voice out their mother language, it will be repeated in another generation. This happens because some people becomes the last generation who spoke the language. As a result, the last generation who witness the life of the language itself. Therefore, we have to be the generation who hold the language tightly, because if fail now, we fail forever. With this reality, what does this mean? It means that doing preservation of mother language is not just a demand or a trend. It is a responsibility that should never end. It must happen this very second, tomorrow, and of course, in the future. Let's start by doing the smallest thing in our nearest world. We speak the language in our community. By doing this, we try to make it immortal in our mind and also invite others to be accustomed to the language. This makes the language safe in more memory. In addition, it also champions the challenges that we face in this globalization era. We still save and protect the language, despite many languages that are exposed to us. Another way that we can do is by following the educational program in our country in which learning the mother language. Let's say we are Japanese people, that is a Japanese lesson. In this subject, we are encouraged to learn our own language and within our horizon to be acquainted with the whole story and also history of the language. In addition, We also know more about the culture and also values of the language. Those two things are very simple and show small the conduct. But trust me, those two things make the very first step of immortalizing mother language possible. Let's start from ourselves and from the smallest effort. Let's translate this vision into real action. By doing this, the word preservation will not just be written preservation, it will be written real. It will not be just a word. It will be just magnificent that you never imagined. I think that is all the points I deliver in the presentation. I do hope that this will be advantageous for us all. Thank you.